Every phrase is a child looms for chance for the individual. We must not grow weary, as time will not wait, for he is coming to determine your fate.
Today we're locking into He Is Coming, described as a roguelite RPG autobattler. I don't really know anything about this or what that word salad I just said even means, but I did see that cover art, that pixel art, and those delicious CRT stylings. That was good enough for me. It should be noted this game is still in early access and only so for the last month, so I can't predict the level of polish that awaits us. It runs for $15 on Steam, though I'm playing via Game Pass on PC. Loading up, we're greeted with a simple start menu, 2 pillars of flame, the logo sitting between them. A dope chiptune dungeon synth track plays, anointing the vibe. It's almost incredible how much can be achieved with meager elements. It's just text and one looping animation placed twice, a looping song, but it really sells the nostalgic dark fantasy concept. The ominous title and that dangerous red shade ooze Dark Lord, the daggers in the logo invoke an accepted violence. The CRT filter is what ties the experience together, a blood hue under a hazy memory. And I know this is true, because you can turn the CRT effect off in the settings, which makes it look unimpressive, like an unfinished project. But when it's on, it hits hard. Also in the settings are multiple languages and an ability to change the font from fancy to basic. Much like the CRT option, fancy helps carry the vibe. You can choose if the game self-pauses when out of focus, and there's an additional option for enabling the fired up buff, though only in single player, so this might be akin to a cheat. This is the notice the game does have a multiplayer mode, but I won't be exploring that in this video. From the main menu, we can view the compendium. This has a few tabs, the empty Woodland and Swampland tabs, which will house something. The actual compendium itself seems to list all the weapons and items. You can sort them by rarity, type with additional keyword filters like Cauldron or Sanguine. Next is the item sets, though this is all locked as well. Finally is the boss list, which seems pretty long, offering me no detail aside from the names, all of which seem right at home in a dark fantasy. Coven Plague Mother? Glad she's here. Dropping in, we're told the heroic fable of a brave knight striking down a fearsome demon king, and the mythical crown that faded from memory. The demon king has returned, crown in hand, a plague upon the land. We, of course, are the knight of this generation who will end him. The visuals and music in this cutscene are very simple, yet immaculate. Drop down into a top-down overworld, I'm instantly reminded of The Legend of Zelda, and also maybe Dwarf Fortress. The icons on the right show basic stats, health, attack, defense, and maybe movement. I seem to be holding a stick as a weapon, but nothing is explained. The music absolutely bumps. Above, I see a day and night cycle, and it looks like we've got 3 days to get ourselves right before we get wrecked. Very Majora's Mask. Our enemy is going to be the Ironstone Golem, the game kind enough to tell us his stats and his special ability. In this case, he loses 3 attack when his armor is broken. Considering his attack is 4, that seems pretty fair to me. We get the fired up buff I mentioned earlier. The game notes it's only for the first run. I'd wager this is to make sure the player gets the fever sufficiently before cranking up the difficulty. It gives us 10 health and an extra attack point. Intel acquired, it's time to get it together. I move with the arrow keys and each movement ticks time forward. I go towards a chest, the only clear objective on the map. Inside are 3 items, a brittle break bow, a cracked whetstone, and a spiny chestnut. The chestnut has a thorns effect, which I enjoy in Slay the Spire, but I opt to go for the bow, even though damage seems to drop after use. At my next chest, I take the redwood cloak over the elderwood staff, or the shield of the hero. I'm big on health regeneration in strategy-aligned games, so if I can take it, I'm gonna. I go at a wolf, and my first battle begins. This game is an auto-battler, meaning I don't have any input, observing as my knight and his opponent trade blow after blow. This is where I learn armor is depleted but replenished at the end of battles, and that the number I was hoping was for overworld movement is actually speed, used for seeing who attacks first. The first battle is over as I swipe at the wolf, having spent more time reading the tutorial screens than in the fight. I find a waypoint which acts as a fast travel anchor. My first day turns to night and the music track changes, but it's just as good, seriously. I'm still unsure where I'm supposed to be actually going, so I hope I'm doing the right thing. I move on to a watchtower looking icon and the map around me expands. I kill a bear, noting enemies can advance to me as I can to them during the night, though they only move when I do. I pick up loose change, gaining me gold at the start of every day. I fight a hedgehog and apologize to Sonic for my cruelty. On the map, I find a golden icon that looks like the Pokemon Pinsir, so I go to that. It turns out to actually be a fairy, which lets me transform an item into another of equal rarity. I offer the button and receive the Redwood Roast, which is funny because that was an option in the chest I got the button from. I hit a new POI. This is the Crystal Ball, which reveals the location of another POI chosen from a list. I don't know what the icons are, though the one that looks like an acorn is already close to me, and I can assume the other two are a blacksmith and a farmer. I go with the blacksmith. Shortly after I hit the acorn, but it's actually an oiling station. It offers a buff to my weapon of either attack, defense, or speed, so I go with attack. You can actually apply all three if you visit 3 different tiles, though I don't figure this out for a very long and embarrassing amount of time. Also, if you swap weapons, the tiles reactivate, so you don't have to think twice about using it on a less than ideal weapon. I pick up the shield of the hero at another chest. I see an icon that looks like a man, and I head over. This is a golem, and it combines 2 of the same item. This is very useful, the merged items retaining the dual effect, but only taking 1 item slot. 2 items become gold, and 2 golden items become diamond, allowing for a max of 4 times. I leave having nothing, but the space remains active, so I can come back later. My second night begins, and I find a jewelry box containing the ruby crown, which lowers my speed but raises my attack. I fight a crow that actively robs me, which is crazy. I head towards a campfire, but as night swaps to day, the icon becomes inactive. I decide to try anyway, and yeah, nothing happens when I hit it, tied to the night. The game informs me that item slot order matters, though swapping them around can be done at any time. This lends to deeper synergies. I get a chest with a redwood helmet, giving me back health regen. At another fairy, I transform the ruby crown into vampiric wine. As the final night hits, the impending boss battle is on our heels, the screen shaking with each tick. I try to hit a treasure chest before the night ends, but I fail to reach it. Awaiting me is the Ironstone Golem. While he's only got 5 HP, he's got 15 defense. I managed to take him out with no real danger, my first boss slain. Post-battle, I have 2 more item slots, which is rad. I pick up the Frostbite Gauntlet, which inflicts freeze for 1 turn at the start of a battle, a status that halves attack. From a jewelry box, I take the Emerald Gemstone, turning any excess healing into damage. It doesn't exactly synergize with the loadout I have right now, but I'm hoping it will in the future. The overworld enemies are now level 2, so they're a bit more sturdy than before. I reach my first farmer icon, but it's actually a traveling merchant. You can pay to reroll the shop, which is always a plus. I buy the Sanguine Rose, which restores 1 additional health whenever I restore health. It's now that I notice the boss in the top corner has changed, which makes sense. I'll be going up against Goldwing Monarch, who has a meaty 40 HP. I swap my sword for Heart Drinker, which restores health on hit, but I also only have 1 attack, so this was probably a very bad move. I use a crystal ball to seek out a blacksmith, hoping I can improve the weapon. My next battle against a bat takes much longer, but my health almost maxes out, so maybe it was the right move. I hit the forge, what I thought was a blacksmith, which lets me add an edge to my sword. Edges are additional effects added to weapons, but only 1 can be active, and you'll have to pay 10 gold to replace it. The only options are thorns or health regen. I lean into the bit, taking the health regeneration. Right after I do, I find an oil stand, letting me add attack oil for 1 point. I find a crystal ball in the night, looking for a merchant. It shows me a far off one, so I go to a waypoint side instead, but there's a merchant right next to it, working out. It has nothing I want, but I waste gold re-rolling the shop because Goldwing Monarch's ability is siphoning your gold into HP, and I'm not into helping birds. The final night begins, and I'm close enough to a campfire to actually hit one for the first time. It just offers to restore my health in exchange for the night, but my health restoration stack has me topped off, so I decline. Last moment, as the boss approaches, I swap out my Shield of the Hero for another Redwood helmet. Even more last second, I hit a merchant and swap out the Frost Gauntlets for a Lifeblood Burst, which deals 3 damage whenever I restore 3 or more health. I'm hoping this all synergizes. At the very least, I'm down to 3 gold, which should make the boss's ability pretty useless. The fight starts, the Bird King waiting for me. The fight is slower, but I'm able to keep pace with his damage, always healing back up to full HP. The helmets only seem to trigger when my armor breaks for the first time, not every turn like I thought, which makes sense. They'd be crazy powerful if they worked that way. The bird goes down and my new foe is revealed. Leshen, a skull-looking guy, awaits. No ability is listed, so I don't know if he doesn't have one or it's just hidden. He's got 50 HP and a nasty 7 attack, but I've got 2 more item slots now, so maybe we can survive this. Like the previous instance, the general enemies are now level 3. I run around the map looking for loot, trying to improve my regen build. I combine the 2 redwood helmets, making it gold, and I get the saffron feather, which converts 1 speed to 2 HP every turn. I don't seem to ever outspeed anyway, so this seems geared towards this build. I find a cauldron, but it requires 2 food items to use, so I leave it. The fight against Leshen begins, and yeah, he doesn't have an ability it seems, just a lot of attack. It's neck and neck, the 2 of us trading blows. In the end, I fall, my enemy left with 2 HP. The game ending screen is just as beautiful as the rest of the game, the knight's helm laying out in the grass. A tune plays, wistful and romantic, haunting. It does hard cut before looping though, which I think needs to be fixed because it draws from how good the short melody is. On the challenges screen, I unlock the Royal Crown Blade for slaying the Goldwing Monarch, and the Ironstone Sandals for defeating the Ironstone Golem, the Lifeblood Helmet for defeating the first boss with only common items, the Horned Helmet for losing my first battle, and the Granite Crown for starting a battle with 30 or more max HP. What a list. Completing 2 adjacent challenges will reveal a challenge's unlock conditions, and this reminds me of Super Smash Bros. Brawl. On the boss tab, we can see the details for the Ironside Golem and the Goldwing Monarch, showcasing the art, stats, special effect, as well as the win rate and death count. Leshen now has a stunning 0% win rate, though that'll change if I have anything to say about it. We start our second run to be menaced by the Blood Moon Werewolf. My gear ends up being a hodgepodge with a thorn-leaning theme. I take out the werewolf, no issues. I find a new POI called the Hero's Grave, which offers rare equipment, like a direct upgrade to a chest. I use the crystal ball to find another Hero's Grave and head that way. I get the Swift Strike Gauntlet, letting me hit 2 more times the first time I drop below 50% HP. Our next boss is the Frostbite Druid, who relies on freezing, having our attack. He's only got 10 HP, but he's got 20 defense, which feels really nasty. I break his defense, but I don't make it much beyond that, crumbling. I unlock the Blood Chain for killing the werewolf though. This game now offers a nice summary screen showing off the equipment and the stats I had, as well as how much health my opponent had left. The first boss of run 3 is the Razor Tusk Hog, who I have to outspeed or he'll do an extra 10 damage, which would be an instant KO for me. I see a cool looking structure, a graveyard I think, as I explore for items, so I head towards it. At the graveyard there's a hero's grave inside, but I can't actually access it, which is a bummer. The hog shows himself and his HP is minuscule. I was mindful of matching his speed, so we're in the clear. I get 2 items, the Kindling Bomb and Iron Shrapnel, both bombs that synergize, resulting in 13 immediate damage at the start of combat if the enemy has no defense. The Goldwing Monarch reemerges, and I make sure to have as little dosh as possible on hand. I've got an extra bomb as well, one that does 1 damage twice, so not great, but anything helps. My own attack power is terrible, at 2. Before I even attack, he's almost to half health, but I don't have the stats to beat him face to face, and I can't re-proc the bombs. Defeated, I unlock some challenges, including outspeeding a spider and defeating Razor Tusk for the first time. Run 4 starts botched as I take the Bejeweled Blade, but never find any jewelry items to power it up, leaving me with terrible equipment. I face off with the Black Knight, who gains attack equal to mine, plus 2. In a way, this is lucky, my attack is pretty low. I was expecting to lose this, but mid-battle, it feels like for a moment I might win. This hope is misplaced though, I eat dust. Run 5, I find 2 leather gloves and combine them at the golem. Again, I face the hog, outspeeding and winning in 1 turn. I find another graveyard with 2 heroes' graves and a wolf, but again, I can't find a way in. I find 2 ruby rings and combine them out of golem, giving me 4 attack for 6 damage at the start of a turn. I have the Inkskin potion as well, which gives armor for lost health at the start of a battle, and I'm hoping this will kind of cover for the ring. This lasts for 2 regular battles before I die from self-inflicted damage. I unlock the cactus cap for my error. Run 6 starts versus the brittle bark beast, who has high HP but takes additional damage per strike. The match is so close we both end up dying at the same time. This completes a challenge, unlocking the double-plated vest. Run 7 sees the Ironstone Golem slain very easily. Next is the Frost Druid, and I'm running a mix of health regeneration and bombs. Having no counter to his frosty antics, I eat it. I unlock the Swift Strike Cloak though. Run 8, I fail to outspeed the hog, but I kill him off before he kills me. I finally find an open graveyard, which is nice. I find a new POI, the Wishing Well, via the Crystal Ball, so I use a waypoint to warp closer to it. I toss in 5 coins, which is all I have. It offers me a golden saffron feather, but I decide not to take it. I take on the Swift Strike Stag, who strikes 3 times a turn, a nightmare. I knock a solid chunk off with bombs and survive the encounter. I find what appears to be a beehive, but I get killed by honey-crazed bears while on the tile, so I don't get to experience it. This sucks as I had full HP before the bears, and I was close to facing off with Leshen. I unlock another round of items. Run 9 sees me faced with the Razorclaw Grizzly. I'd started out with a defense build, but the bear isn't deterred by defense, so I pivoted towards a dual strike build. I win, but it's kinda close. I face off next against the Redwood Treant, who's beefy but slow. I lose, not having health regeneration. Run 10, I try to go for a Thorns build, but it ends up killing me on turn 1 of the hog. Run 11, I barely survive a fight with a hedgehog, and then I die to another hedgehog. On run 12, I collect the Redwood Rod, Helmet, and Cloak, completing our first item set and unlocking the Redwood Crown buff. This restores us to full health when wounded procs, pretty nice. I combine my 2 helmets into the golden variant. I enter the fight against the Ironstone Golem. We trade blows, and I manage to keep my health topped off at full as I slay the monster. Back against the Golden Wing Monarch, I've got a weird Redwood and Thorns mix going on. It's a little too close for comfort, but I do eke out the win. Continuing, I merge my Redwood Cloaks and my Horned Helmets. The Leshen fight sneaks up on me, and I fall with him at less than half health. Run 13 is back with the Brittle Bark Beast, and it's the usual back and forth, though I do win this time by 1 HP. Next is the Frostbite Druid, so I don't really think too much, knowing I'm gonna die anyway. I break his defense, but yeah, I die. Run 14 is versus the Black Knight, and I take him out with bombs doing most of the heavy lifting. Swift Strike Stag survives me with 1 HP. Run 15, I find a new POI via the Crystal Ball, and it's pretty far off. Still, I make the trek. I don't make it in time though, the icon on screen as the boss fight begins. I come in with 5 HP, so it's a quick defeat. Run 16, I take out the Black Knight, no issue. Not paying attention, I die to a hedgehog. Run 17, I beat the Ironstone Golem with a weird Thorn build. I meet up with the Frostbite Druid, but my Thorns only work on the first turn, so I die. I really want to like Thorns, but this game makes it very hard to. Run 18 is the Black Knight again. After I find a new POI, a white spider with the crystal ball. I go to it, finding a wandering stranger right before it. The stranger gives me some lore on the upcoming boss, the Blackbriar King. The white spider is the Webweaver Queen, and I'm asked if I'll challenge her. I go for it. I have a slow starting defense build going, and her ability steals speed and then does damage, so failure was expected. Run 19 is versus the Werewolf, followed by the Redwood Treant, which I take out with a Frost Thorns combo, but I forgot to hit record. I head into the fight against Leshen, and thank God I double check, because I actually managed to beat him this time. I'm delighted until he transforms into the Woodland Abomination with 100 health. He gains attack every turn, and due to my low HP, there's no way I can outpace him. I get down to 13 HP before falling. This feels kinda cheap. I was stoked to finally get good enough to beat Leshen, only for the game to drop the Twist dual stage boss battle. I'm guessing beating the Woodland Abomination wouldn't even win the run. There's a whole other section, Swampland. On run 20, I'm given the ability to resolve general battles in the overworld, I guess a reward for beating Leshen. I find a golden treasure chest, lucky me. It just offers a golden version of regular items, so I get a golden redwood cloak. I die to the Ironstone. On run 21, I run around, eventually getting a diamond frostbite gauntlet from the wishing well, which is neat. I take on the Blackbriar King, who doesn't attack, instead using thorns. I fall, leaving him with 2 HP. On run 22, I finally use the cauldron, making roasted chestnuts. It gives me health and thorns, pretty okay. A few runs later, I hit a pretty good run, flush with gold. I toss the max amount of coins into the well, and choose to turn all chests golden. I make it past Leshen, only to fall again at the Woodland Abomination. On run 50, maybe, I once again beat Leshen, running a mix of Frost and Thorn. I earn Untouchable, having never lost health the entire run, something I hadn't even realized. On the Woodland Abomination, I watch with bated breath, hoping finally that it's enough. The beast falls, and I reign. The narrative notes there's still issues in the Swampland, so my hunch was correct. This was just the first half of the game. Still, my victory feels like a completion. Without ever doing any intentionally, I managed to complete 43 of the 65 Woodland challenges. I'm not sure if this is a testament to the challenges being in line with just playing the game, or evidence of me throwing everything I could think of at the wall to try and beat that monster. Checking my compendium, it seems to have doubled, no doubt the Swampland items being added. I see poison, which is exciting, it being missed was going to be one of my complaints. A new option to access the Swampland appears on the menu. Loading up Swampland on a new day, I'm greeted with the ability to banish items, preventing them from showing up for the rest of the run. The number of banishments is tied to the item pool. At first I thought this was because I beat Woodland, but it's actually an update the devs pushed out overnight, timed perfectly with my playthrough. I load into the new area, and while the map looks similar at first, streams of swamp water surround us, and new items are in the near chest. I immediately find a new POI, the Ferryman. He offers to take me to 3 locations, and I choose to go to the Golem home. I'm taken out while exploring, but there's a whole host of new concepts here. Effects like poison, purity, acid, health regen, items like instruments, fangs, new roses, even movement is different. Before it was one large map with fast traveling waypoints. Now it's small themed islands, the ferryman and sinkholes your only way to go forward. There's also no backtracking. Once you leave an area for another, you can never go back to that specific one. On my next run, I find a sinkhole. Accepting it teleports me to another new POI, the weapon pile. Like a chest, but exclusively for having weapons. My first boss of the section, Carnivorous Slime, quickly takes me out, my gear having no synergy, and my health low going in. Next go, the Swamp Song Siren falls to my blade, a good feeling. She's followed by the Silver Scale Shark, though the battle is close. I reach the Swampland Hydra, the final boss of this area, and it's actually 4 boss fights, 1 for each head. You have to fight the heads in order with no break, but you're allowed to remove one from the lineup. I remove the Acid Head, beat the Riptide Head, but fall to the Poison Head. My next Hydra fight, I remove the Poison Head, beat the Acid and Riptide Heads, but fall to the Stun Head. At this point, I stop recording, not bothering. It's clear this is going to take some time, and more importantly, good RNG. I died to the Swampland Hydra 9 times before finally slaying it. I had to check the footage to see what actually happened. I'd been putting the battles in 3x, fully expecting to lose. It looks like my Diamond Muscle Potion was able to put me over the edge strength-wise, my Champion's Blade with Oaken Edge, and my Diamond Life Root Gauntlets keeping up with the health regen, just enough for me to slay the final head with 1 HP left. And let it be noted, I cut off the Stun Head. The game wraps with some text detailing the fact that the Demon King approacheth, though it's quickly followed up by a note that the third act isn't in the game yet, so the title is still accurate even after beating the game. He is still coming. And honestly, I'm really looking forward to the game exiting early access. I spent 16 hours in this dark world of death, decay, and daggers, and I really enjoyed it. Even at its most frustrating, when I'd close the game after a terrible run, I'd reopen it within the hour. It reminds me of being sunk into a grand strategy game, the hours passing without notice, the daylight going and then coming. There's a lot to love here. I raved about the aesthetics, and it's true, I really do love the theming, but as I sunk deeper into it, and deeper into my chair, all of that melted away, the gameplay demanding all of my attention. Yes, the music is rad, but I need to figure out why I can't get my Thorns build to work the way I want it to. I can't focus on the sprite work because I'm trying to hit timing a golem and a chest before the boss battle. This point isn't a critique, this is affirmation. The aesthetics lure and the gameplay sedates. Its execution every game wishes it could pull off. There are some negatives to the gameplay, most notably the large item pool. On the surface, a large pool of options sounds great, but most of them seem designed to work in specific groupings or with specific playstyle intents. For example, pretty much anything turn one stat into another stat once per turn item when ignored, as well as anything having to do with speed, the acid items, the list goes on. I'm hesitant to call these items bloat. I'm sure these have a use in the hands of the right player, but he is not me. So the name of the game is wading through trash for treasure. Of course, the new update does help address this, letting players remove a few items from the pool per run, 2 in my case. While this means I can finally get the holy shield out of my face, and that the devs are listening and aware of the issue, I'm unsure if it's enough to address this in the long run. But if they stay proactive and adaptable while engaging with community feedback, I'm sure the game will find a sufficient balance. As it stands, the game is easier the less you've played, simply because so many undesirable items are locked. I have no doubt victory is possible with the heroes set or the champions. They feel designed to get the player to the end. I wouldn't mind a mode that lets you play with only the base items, though I don't know how viable that would be. Don't get me wrong, some of my favorites are unlockables, like the Woodcutter's Axe or my beloved Life Root Gauntlet. It's just most aren't worth their salt. Likewise, a lot of items might seem great, but their activation holds them back. The game has 7 activations. Battle start and first turn are similar, identical if you outspeed your opponent. Turn start is the best, having frequent and reliable activation, but it's rare. On hit is also frequent and reliable, though dependent on strikes. Exposed activates when losing all defense, but only for the first time. Likewise, wounded activates when dipping below half health, but also only for the first time. Countdown is a looping timer, but can be manipulated with items. I won't count Symphony here because it requires one of these other activations first. I have no doubt these activations and conditions exist for a reason. While the game isn't as easy as I thought it was going to be, it's manageable and enjoyable, so the balance was paid due attention. But much like a lot of self-infliction items, I do wonder just who they serve for their inclusion. While something like Cracked Boulder Shield makes perfect sense to me, I do wonder why the Royal Horn is tied to Wounded. Though I would sometimes take Royal Horn because it had Wounded, and it would activate Symphony in order to reactivate my Arcane Bell, so maybe I'm the reason. However, one grouping I can discard rather unapologetically is Jewelry. Jewelry was at best filler, and at worst a hindrance. I just can't seem to make it worthwhile. I even attempted to use the Bejeweled Blade once or twice, failing to make any build useful. The Royal Scepter is the most interesting of the grouping, attack tied to the amount of gold in your pocket, but its rare class means you're unlikely to run across it. Citrine Gemstone could also be interesting, but you'd need incredible foresight and luck to make much of anything with it. On the counter, the edges, modifications used to personalize every weapon towards whatever build you're trying to hit, are a nice touch. You will always find me with the Oaken Edge, Stormcloud Edge, at worst. I also like the potions, specifically the Muscle Potion and the Petrifying Flask, and of course, the bombs. The instruments are a favorite, and I really hope they expand the instrument pool. I really wanted to like tomes, but even with the Arcane Bell, they just take too long. I did have a Diamond Stormcloud tome once, which was totally baller, and only failed me at the stun head. I wasn't as interested in the food, and I only used the cauldron once. For the overworld POIs, the Golem, our item merging friend, is the best, usurped only by the large Golem, who upgrades your item without needing a duplicate. Forges and blade oil are pretty good, though once you have your weapon the way you like it, they rightfully fall off. The item POIs are fine, and I like that some only have specific items. I never stop at a weapon pile once I found the one I wanted, and I never stop at a jewelry box in general, but I always hit the ancient tome out of curiosity. Likewise, I hit every chest and every merchant, just to see what's to be seen. The crystal ball is great, though exclusive to Woodland, as are the graveyards with the heroes' graves when I can get into them. The bonfires are good for healing, but I rarely use them, feeling it a waste of the night. The Fairy Queen is fun on paper, swapping all of your items with higher level gear, but realistically she'll just kill your run. The well is incredible if you can afford it, but even if you've only got a little gold, it's rewarding. There are some extra bosses only accessible via the overworld, a solid touch for players looking for an extra challenge. The Wandering Traveler gives you boss lore, passing down the torch of myth. The game's timing is properly tuned. I never have enough time to do everything I want to do, but I can get a solid 80% done. Likewise, on the few runs where I had too much time, you're given the option of skipping straight to the boss fight. This game is interesting in that while I have a vague feeling of wanting improvements, when I ask myself specifically what I would add, it's hard to define. A lot of things I would be quick to suggest are because of my lack of adaptation to their synergies or just wanting them to be simplified for my own ease. I dislike acid because so many acid items seem to self-inflict, but there's a reason for that, even if it's lost on me. You're likely meant to use another item that transfers your status to the enemy, but as a health regeneration stacker, I never touch those. As the game continues to grow, a lot of concepts will be refined and ironed out, expanded, and perhaps condensed. It will be interesting to see what the third act will bring, and how it will change the relationship between the player and the game. Usually I'm pretty glad to be done with the game, but for this one I do plan to revisit it when the third act drops, if only out of my own curiosity. The story has less text than the boss flavor copy, but that's not a weakness. We've got a vague story, a pretense for the journey, and we're kicked out the door. I don't need to know the politics of the land, or who made the golem, or even who I am. I slayed the Woodland Abomination and the Swampland Hydra. I want to see the Demon King felled, simple as. Overall, I would give this game a 7 out of 10. It's a fun roguelite with a frustratingly large pool of items, a solid amount of events, and a charming retro dungeon aesthetic. It's still in early access, but as this review stands, it's worth the time and the dosh. I have a lot of complaints about the items and statuses and everything else that can be dumped into the bucket of skill issue, and I'm at peace with that. I doubt it's possible to play this and not curse at least one item for always showing up unasked. For a world with no story beyond a brief archetype, it does breathe in its own way. During my first run, I felt like a stranger in a strange land, stumbling around in the dark, panicked, hands reaching for anything I could find. Now, the world feels lived in. The earth further broken in with each press of my arrow keys. He might be coming, but me? I'm already here. Anyway, don't forget to tip the ferryman. I'll catch you next time.